You shopping for a used car? Don't buy right now. I know we've been talking about what's the market's doing, and we know that there's lots of incentives, both new and used vehicles. A lot of dealers are still holding strong, and what's been going on is clearly a shift. Now, we know historically, if you follow the natural market trends, we typically know that most people sell their cars in the spring. Why? Well, you think about they bring out their used sports cars, their Corvettes, their Mustangs, and if they've had them under wraps all winter, they bring them out in the spring. Same thing with houses. Typically in the spring is when people bring it out. Other people are feeling good about buying. And so it drives prices up, and we'll see naturally the trend right after New Year's. We find the dollars and the values of a lot of these vehicles going down. But as we rise into the spring, historically we find that prices start to come up. And then once you sort of hit that March, April, May timeframe, you're starting to see prices rise steadily. And then we stabilize as we roll into June. That's where you want to buy your used car. I was in an Infiniti dealer actually last night looking at a used car that they had. It wasn't an Infiniti, it was an off-brand vehicle. And I was in there last night, and the last couple times I was at the dealer looking at this used vehicle, not for myself, somebody else that's really urgent and agitated to buy a new vehicle or a used vehicle, really feels like this is the time. And we sat down with the dealer, and we also experienced it firsthand. The dealers are hungry. There was nobody in the dealership. We were in prime time. It was early evening. Typically when people are off work, people are out shopping, walking around, asking the dealer what's up, seeing what's new in the zoo. There was nobody in there. I was in the dealership for an hour. I grabbed a coffee. I looked at the car. We went for a test drive. We walked around, and I saw about 5 people in the dealership, and they were all workers, but I did not see one other customer in there. And clearly, people aren't shopping right now. But yet, the dealers seem to feel that they want to hold strong to the value of some of their vehicles. They still aren't really budging, and you can find selective deals here and there. And we spoke about buying new. Obviously, there's some incentives, but on the used car market, the market is what the market can bear. It's a totally different place. But there's a little natural bubble because what typically happens in June is something big. In the United States, Memorial Day weekend. Everybody knows about that. You probably see some of the signage, some of the advertisements. They're popping up all over the place. Sales here, sales there, sales everywhere. But we also know that we're talking about tax time. And what happens at tax time? A lot of people find that they owe the government too much taxation, so they go out and buy their new or used vehicle. Get it under the umbrella of the vehicle, of the business, and they're able to write some of those expenses off. So people are often looking for a last-minute knee-jerk purchase on a vehicle because it's a large value amount and it's able to offset a lot of the costs of tax time. So typically people also have money tax returns coming in. They have those opportunities to go out and buy some money. They get a windfall of $5,000 or $10,000. Now it's time to go buy themselves another car. So people are often building to the point of tax time, Memorial Day weekend, specifically in the United States, and even in Canada, we're finding typically tax time in and around the same time frame is that time when people are spending their money and they're buying those cars. So as we approach the April, May, June timeframe, spring, you're going to find less and less deals on the used car market. And while the wholesale market continually slides slightly, that doesn't seem to impact too much on the retail because the dealers know what the market trends. And if you look at historically, we often find that that's typical year on year on year. As we hit spring, prices rise and the dealers react. They react to that. They change the pricing. They hold strong. They are less likely to offer up the great deals on used vehicles. They're just going to hold because they know people are going to buy on these popular vehicles. So here where is the time that it's time to buy. Get past tax season, get past Memorial Day weekend, and then we find it slumps. Then prices start to drop. Dealers cannot get those great cars anymore because there's often an inrush of people buying those leading into spring, and then they start thinning out on the used car market, particularly in the late model, CPO, certified pre-owned vehicles that are great to own. And typically, have you heard of what's starting to go on in the marketplace? Because there's a specific type of vehicle that often is even more susceptible to these price fluctuations. And those vehicles are in that $12,000 to $20,000 range. Yes, 12 to 20K is that space where a lot of people can actually get in and reasonably afford this car. People don't have $80,000 to $100,000. That's not really the space that you worry about too much. It's luxury car segment. But as we look at these opportunities, it's going to be more difficult to get those vehicles in that $12,000 to $20,000 range because a lot of people can afford them. And dealers are often looking for big trades. They want those types of vehicles. So if you're stepping into the program, maybe you want to buy a new Jeep Grand Cherokee and you want to spend $60,000, but you've got that $15,000 used vehicle you want to trade in, lightly, gently massaged and used vehicle. Dealers are loving that. And come that time frame, you could probably even maximize your trade-in value. So remember, that's always a separate transaction, and that's for another conversation. But when you do go in for a trade-in, you're probably going to get a better value knowing that after Memorial Day weekend, after tax time, you go in there and they're probably going to give you a bigger bite for your trade-in. And so that's an opportunity to make some significant wins. So definitely that is double win. They're looking for inventory, particularly in that sub $20,000 category. So you're going to get a better trade-in value. And if you're looking even trading up to maybe a new to you vehicle, something slightly used. Let's say you're trading in your 6-year-old vehicle for a 2-year-old vehicle, has a little bit of warranty left. That's your opportunity to maximize your trade-in value, as well as pick up a good deal on that next level, that $40,000 vehicle that's slightly used, because the dealers now are starting to get hungry again. As we level off into summer is where we're going to start to see some of these advantageous opportunities to make some big wins and get some great options or opportunities to save some big money, like huge money. So as we know, of course, interest rates are still a factor. We know that dealers are still itchy. We know that interest rates are holding steady. And this whole underlying theme just constantly sort of hampers the buying of these vehicles. And of course, dealers become more motivated. There's this whole K factor above and beyond what we typically saw in 2019, where the market was more exaggerated, sort of. You had the highs, you had the lows. Now you're getting a little bit less top to bottom, just because there's a few less people looking at buying. With interest rates as high as they are, a lot of people either can't, if they're subprime borrowers, they often can't even get, they can't get lending, they can't get credit, or even if they can, often a lot of people don't necessarily want to go and hawk at a 10% interest rate charge when they can just wait, and they know interest rate charges or interest charges are starting to come down, and they will start to drop here as the time goes on. Once the governments and the lending institutions, the government of Canada, obviously, we talk about the banks of Canada and the United States, Treasury, and all these areas, these finance control organizations, if I can say that, because that's the best way I'd see that. They essentially control how much you and I are paying for anything that we buy. Once they make the decision to drop these prices and drop the interest rate charges due to inflation, because inflation starts to settle down, that's when we're going to find more deals. So for now, if we're looking for a vehicle and you're looking for a used vehicle, I believe this is the time where you want to sort of wait it out now. If you've been shopping, wait it out till after, well into June, when we see prices start to drop. There's some fresh trade-ins coming into the market, and dealers are more likely to even take your trade-in at max dollar. So there's some great opportunities. This is your time to wait to save big money, and that's right after Memorial Long Weekend. And with all of that said, be sure to check out my other channel, Exotic Car Play Place, where this video is amazing. It tells you some terrible used car junkers that you definitely want to avoid like the plague. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you all real soon. Bye-bye.